into this malarkey of expensive watch buying, but it kind of started indirectly, well, in a way directly from Dina, because when she was in the Ukraine, she was looking at fake watches over there, and I got her one. I didn't really want to. I will admit I don't like fake watches at all. But anyway, she wanted a fake watch, so they were cheap and cheerful. So I picked up one fake watch, and on the back of it you can see the workings, and I can see it sort of moving around inside, doing, you know, magic stuff. And it was doing all of that without a battery, without solar power, without anything. And it just got me interested, really, just looking at the movement of the watch. It just got my interest piqued, so I then started looking at the possibility of getting, you know, a proper watch like that. And I must admit, the thought of Rolex never once crossed my mind. You know, they were far too expensive. I knew nothing about them. But I did look at Omega, and I thought, oh, Omega looks a nice watch, you know, to have. There's the Sea Dweller and Planet Ocean. They're both sort of James Bond watches now. So I went along to my dealer, who I'd never met before, and I'd sent a few emails, so had contact via, you know, email first, and then went into the store. I met Mark, because I know you'll be watching this. So I then met Mark, and we looked at the Omega, and basically sort of just before going into the store, I'd found a YouTube video on the Blue Yacht Master, the Rolex Blue Yacht Master, and I still didn't really think that I would get that watch. And it was only when I was in the store looking at the Omega, and just out of curiosity I said to Mark, do you have the Blue Yacht Master in stock? Not really knowing anything at all about any of this stuff. And just amazingly he did, and I looked at it and just instantly just fell in love with the Blue Yacht Master. And whilst the Omega is a fantastic watch, once I saw that Blue Yacht Master, it was either basically getting that or nothing at all. I don't think I could have purchased the Omega and felt happy with that purchase, even though that's not exactly cheap. So I don't think I would have felt happy if I'd have purchased the Omega and not got the Rolex Blue Yacht Master. I think I would have, even though the Omega is a lot cheaper, I think I would have been less happy, less comfortable spending that amount of money, because it's not always the amount of money that you spend, it's are you happy, you know, with the purchase that you have, you know, just made. So I then had this conundrum, you know, do I get the Omega? And I was really never going to get that at this point. And if I got the Yacht Master, how the hell was I going to cover that one? At that time I had no idea that Rolex held their value, you know. Okay, the Yacht Master will have dipped a little bit because it has some precious metal in it. The bezel is platinum, so that watch will have dipped a bit, but not very much. But I didn't know that at the time. You know, I had no idea that at the time of buying that watch that it would still hold, you know, most of its value. I thought, like most things, it would just plummet in value, but I still just wanted that watch. So then I knew my credit rating was excellent, because previously I'd been sort of nosing at that type of thing. So I found 0% transfer fee, 0% interest rate, on a card over, I think it was like 2 years or something like that. So once I found that card, or I knew I could get that card, got the watch, whacked it onto this 00 card, and then, you know, paid it off a bit each month, and then it's actually going to be paid off, I think, early next year. So, but by doing a bit a month, it hasn't cost me anything. So I've got a watch, and it's cost me, well, I wouldn't say it hasn't cost me anything, but it hasn't cost me any interest, and it never will. And it's a purchase that I know, you know, is not going to lose very much ever. It will always hold good value. I then joined, you know, a couple of watch groups. Horology is one, Rolex Collectors World is another, Swiss Watch Connection is another. There are several others as well. And when I joined them, I thought, I'm just going to look, just have a look. I'm not going to be buying any more watches. Anyway, of course, I then, usual thing, started seeing other watches and started thinking, actually, these other watches look quite nice. I hadn't realised how nice they looked at the time. So that's how I got the Polar, and I had to wait 4 months for the Polar. That's the Explorer 2. That took 4 months to arrive. That's getting in shorter supply. And before I got that one, I had offers coming out of my ears for different people offering to sell me either a used one, a new one at a discounted price, or, you know, retail price. And in the time that I was waiting and held on to get mine from my dealer, Mark, I think it pretty much started to go up in value a little bit. So again, that's another watch now that I have that I don't think it'll ever lose value. I think it will probably gain some. And then I wanted to get another watch. I was kind of like hooked on this, especially knowing that my money was safe. I will admit that helps a bit, knowing that my capital is safe in this. So I then started sort of thinking, now, you know, what else can I get? And I had a couple of other ideas, but chatting with Mark, we came to the conclusion that the Hulk would be a good purchase. That's a green Submariner, and we're still waiting for that. It may get discontinued next year. There's a rumour going around that the green Submariner will get discontinued. Whether it does or it doesn't, that's a watch the same as this GMT Master 2, that the second you buy it on the grey market, it's worth double what you pay, effectively. So we then chatted for a little bit. I went along, had a nice cup of tea. It's worth popping along for the nice cup of tea. So, and we said, you know, that the best thing to do was to aim for the Hulk, and because I'd put my name down instantly on this GMT Master 2, that, you know, I would try and hopefully get that this year. I was hopeful for this year. I don't think it was ever 100%, but I was hopeful that I would get it this year. And I, of course, when I did the video last month on my other 2 watches, I name dropped Mark a couple of times, like I'm doing now. Goldsmiths, Cribbs Causeway. And because he knew I did the video, I told him, I sent him the link and everything, and I think he quite enjoyed it. And then a few weeks later, you know, the GMT2 arrived. Which reminds me, getting this watch is very much like having a cap with a feather in it. I found this feather just for this video. And that's pretty much, you know, the story or the history about how I got into this. So this is something I've got interested in, and if I get any other watches in the future, I'll probably do some more videos on it. So I hope this little talky bit wasn't too boring. I just wanted to put a little history in about that. The reason why these professional stainless steel watches are, you know, so expensive, it's not exactly cheap to buy, but Rolex doesn't seem to make very many of them. They seem to concentrate on Datejusts and precious metals, golds and things like that. And they don't seem to make so many of the professional sports models, the GMTs, the Submariners, and the Daytonas. I quite like the idea of a white Daytona, actually. And the Sky Dweller is also quite a rare piece. So Rolex just doesn't seem to make so many of these professional models. And of course what happens is, I don't know how to put this so I don't offend too many people, but people buy them somehow or other, and then they can obviously flip them at extortionate prices. So I understand why they do it. They're in for a quick profit. I do understand the reason why they do it. I can't say I'm not a big fan of it personally. That's putting it kind of mildly. But anyway, it is what it is. But it does mean that if the average person walks into a store, or maybe it doesn't mean this, I don't know. But anyway, if the average person walks into a store wanting, a watch like this or a Submariner, the chances of you getting it are almost zero, to be honest, unless you get exceptionally lucky. You've got very, very little chance of getting one of these watches, and because they're so rare, as I said, that's why people get hold of them, buy them, and then sell them on, and it just seems a bit. Anyway, I don't want to go down that road too much, but I'm not a fan of it. So I was very lucky to get hold of this watch here, and thank you, Mark, for getting this in quite as quickly as you did. I thought I'd be lucky to get it before Christmas, and it's still summertime, so I'm really very, very happy and proud of this watch. It really is an absolute beauty, and I really enjoyed doing this video. I got a bit more to do on the video. It's going to be another long video, I think. What might be useful to some people is how you can get hold of one of these. Well, what I did was just got friendly, polite, popped along regularly, showed my interest, proved I hadn't sold anything, kept showing my watches, and just generally interacting and showing my watch, so they know that I'm going to keep my watch, wear it, use it, love it, abuse it, bring it out into the wilds, make silly videos out of it, hopefully get a few more subscribers and a few more views, and I can afford some more watches. But basically it's just you keep in touch, be polite and friendly. Obviously having a past purchase history with the same store helps, so I would personally never. I've heard people say go to this store, that store, another store, this stores all over the place, and ask everywhere, and maybe that works for many people, but I personally wouldn't do that. I will admit I've looked in other stores just in passing, but I would never buy from another dealer. As long as I've got this relationship with mine, I'd damn well stick with that. I think it would be foolish and stupid to look somewhere else when you've got such a good purchase history going. I just see no point. Basically, as I said, I bought the Yacht Master. I did get a Datejust for Dina as well, and obviously the Explorer 2. So I have purchase history, and that all helps, when it comes to purchasing the rarer models. So I must admit now I'm going to start gunning for the rarer models now, and just see how easy it is for me to get them. I think I'll be able to get them. I will admit I am confident. If I could get this, I'm confident that over the next few years I'm going to get hold of some of these rarer models. We'll see. My advice to people wanting to buy a watch, because I don't want you buying watches before me. So either get a watch after I've got it, or be rude, abusive, you know, don't show up, flip your watches, sell them as soon as you've bought them, do all that type of stuff, and then the AD will never sell to you ever again, and then that gives me a much better opportunity to get the watches that I want. So that's Tony's advice for purchasing watches. Yes. Right. I think I need a cup of tea in a minute. It's nice to have, you know, a hobby where, yes, it might cost a lot of money, but knowing that you're not throwing all that money away. And there aren't many hobbies that you can do where you can actually know with some degree of certainty that you're not losing your money. And I think it's nice to have a hobby that's like that, because most other hobbies, once your money's gone, you know, it's gone, and you're going to get very little back if ever you did need to sell something in the future. And I like this hobby. This is really, really nice. I think the watches are really beautiful. I'm fascinated by them. I like the colours. They tend to do different colours and different options, and I just like that a lot. And then you meet some interesting people along the way, you know, as well. You chat to different people and meet interesting people, and you know, it's just a really nice way of interacting, you know, with a different community.